First of all, good morning and thank you to everyone joining us today. It's a real pleasure to be part of the first annual energy update, and a big congratulations to Jacob and Sheila for bringing this event together. I want to focus my remarks on three areas. The first is just some fundamentals of our industry and our economic contribution, because I know there are many kind of new audience members for our sector on the line today. The second is to speak to a lot of the great work that our industry has been doing and continues to focus on in terms of reducing emissions associated with our activity. And finally, I'd like to speak to the collaboration and partnerships that have existed between our industry and Indigenous people and that we continue to work on. And I believe that Stephen Buffalo of the Indian Resource Council is going to be part of today's event as well, and speaking to this from his member perspective as well. So I'll jump into the basics. Our industry got its start in the Sarnia region of Ontario, that's northwest of Toronto, where oil was discovered in the 1860s. And from there, our industry has grown to become one of the key drivers of Canada's economy. We have the world's third largest oil reserves with more than 164 billion barrels, a lot of which, or most of which, is in the oil sands deposits in northeastern Alberta. We have in excess of 1,225 trillion cubic feet of natural gas resource, and we're currently the world's fifth largest producer of natural gas. And of course, we also have our East Coast offshore production, which is also benefiting from vast reserves, about 64 billion barrels of oil and 225 trillion cubic feet of gas in just 10% of the area offshore of Newfoundland. In 2020, our production averaged about 4 million barrels per day of oil and 16 billion cubic feet per day of natural gas. And this was coming out of British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and of course, Newfoundland and Labrador. Our industry directly and indirectly employs about 500,000 Canadians across the country. And this is really thanks to a multi-billion-dollar supply chain that we have. We procure goods and services from close to 3,000 suppliers across the country. So almost every province in Canada is part of Canada's upstream oil and gas story, and it's something we're very proud of. We're a Canadian industry. We've always been a big source and driver of capital investment in Canada, and the largest source of foreign direct investment in Canada, and of course an important indicator of our industry's health. Yesterday, we were pleased to announce our projection of a 22% increase in natural gas and oil investment for 2022. We expect it to reach $32.8 billion compared to $26.9 billion for 2021. And we hope this is a sign of good things to come. Canada was viewed as a top-tier international investment jurisdiction for resource development, and the industry is working hard to regain that position. And that investment is going to be really critical to all of the work we want to do, both in terms of supplying energy to the world, but continuing our work around reducing environmental impacts associated with our sector, technology development, innovation. So again, we're excited by these trends. I want to speak to the trade side as well. So in 2019, natural gas, oil, and refined products represented 112.6 billion, or 19% of Canada's exports, and we are by far the country's largest export by value. Today, 99% of Canada's hydrocarbon exports go to the United States. So as Sheila was saying, we have a very strong and integrated energy relationship, certainly on the oil and natural gas side. Our Atlantic offshore production serves the US and overseas markets as well, more significantly. Increased market access both to the United States and international markets remains a real important priority for our producers. Western Canadian oil has also always kind of had to deal with a discounted price because of market access constraints. And so we continue to look forward to the completion of the Trans Mountain Expansion Pipeline project, which is currently under construction, expected in service date in late 2022. And that's going to offer greater capacity to transport oil from the oil sands, in particular to our West Coast, and create some more international export opportunities for our members. We're also, of course, looking forward to and happy to see the progress on the LNG Canada a liquefied natural gas facility also on the West Coast. The Coastal GasLink pipeline associated with that is under construction, and this is an important next step for Canada in increasing our capacity to export LNG to the world and opening new markets for Canada's natural gas. And I'd say that an important part of this is also the role that we hope to play in reducing global emissions through the export of our natural gas, through the work we're doing to reduce emissions associated with our natural gas and really displace higher emitting fuels around the world. And we see this as an important part of the future we want to see for our industry. So let's move on to that environmental performance in a little bit more detail. Our industry has had a major focus in maintaining high standards for environmental, social, and governance performance, and playing a leading global energy and emissions reduction role through that production and export of ever lower emission natural gas and oil. And so some key performance facts that we've been able to publish in the last year. Between 2011 and 2019, on the natural gas side of our business, we saw emissions intensity decrease by 33% as production increased by 32%. On the oil sands side, on the in situ side, we saw a 66% increase in production between 2013 and 2019, but again, emissions intensity going down 8% between 2013 and 2019, so those same years. On the mining side, we saw a production increase of 59% as emissions intensity decreased by 14%. And these are important trends, and these are the trends we want to build upon, decoupling emissions growth from production growth. And today, some of those figures I spoke to on the oil sands side means that our production on the oil sands in terms of emission is now comparable to other North American crudes in terms of emissions intensity. And this is something we're proud of and want to continue to build upon. And our members have a number of initiatives focused on this. On the conventional side and the oil sands side, we've been really proactive in research, technology development to drive environmental performance. And our success in this area, and I spoke to some of the results, has involved partnerships with clean technology ecosystems that have really sprung up around our sector and created solutions and technologies that didn't exist 5 years ago, from satellite monitoring technology to other process improvements. And these technologies are now part of Canada's clean tech export story. And this is an important story because our industry wants to see both a role for the clean technologies that come out of our sector and for the energy that we're producing with lower and lower emissions. As we look ahead, we see really important opportunities for carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And it's a key part of how many of our producers are going to drive even deeper emission reductions and eventually drive to net zero for many of them. Methane emission reduction is a really important focus area. Canadian producers are on track to deploy technologies and reduce methane emissions by 45% from 2012 levels. And with the right enabling policy environment, we can go further. And there have been announcements coming out of that last COP meeting about increased methane ambition globally. On the LNG and natural gas side, we've had a real focus on utilizing low emission electricity, primarily hydro energy, in our major natural gas producing regions to power LNG plants. And Canada's on track to produce some of the world's cleanest LNG. And again, this is a key part of, I think, the climate issue, where we want, yes, to reduce domestic emissions, but we also want to play an important role in helping major emitter countries like China, like India, who also have high energy needs and growing energy needs to meet both their energy needs and meet their emission reduction targets. And we believe that our producers can play an important role there. And so now I'd like to turn to a significant element of the work we do and a way we want to work going forward, and that is our engagement with Indigenous peoples. Canada's oil and natural gas industry has had a long history of interaction with Indigenous peoples, and the industry has made and continues to focus on strides towards developing those strong relationships and creating new opportunities for benefits and partnerships in the resource development space. And a lot of those partnerships with the communities where we work or with Indigenous organizations focus on a range of things, from social initiatives around housing, education, and training, to environmental initiatives, to economic initiatives and partnerships. And just to put a few figures on this, Indigenous people, first of all, are an important part of our workforce. They make up 6.3% of our upstream industry workforce compared to 3.3% of Canada's as a whole. They are also business partners. In 2019, the oil sands industry procured $2.36 billion in goods and services from 275 Indigenous-owned businesses and suppliers. On the conventional side, that figure was 278 million. These are important business partnerships and an important part of the kind of multiplier and prosperity story that we want to see continue to build. And now increasingly, Indigenous participation is coming through ownership participation. The Suncor East tank farm has 8 First Nations equity partners. The Haisla Nation has a stake in the Cedar LNG project, which we hope to see move forward, among many other things in the works. And I think what's key here is that together we're looking to find new ways to grow resource development in a sustainable and mutually beneficial manner through those strong relationships and through creating those opportunities for shared prosperity. So I guess I'll conclude just by saying, you know, our industry is technologically advanced, it is collaborative, it is solution focused, and we really want to continue to pursue and meet the world's growing needs for affordable, reliable, and low emission energy. And we're really excited to be part of the conversation. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Shannon. We have time for a question or two from other panelists. Anybody want to ask Shannon a question? To do so, you got to unmute yourself and just jump in. Well, as people formulate questions in their mind, maybe I'll ask a question, Shannon. You know, given sort of our partnership with the United States Energy Association and the sort of North American approach we want to try and take through this, what do you think we can do better as Canadians to promote our products, services, expertise, both to the United States, who are now no longer a dependent customer, but actually more of a competitor than they used to be, and the other markets around the world who could benefit from what we do?
Well, I think an important part is having conversations like these and exchanging on the work and opportunities that there are for energy partnerships between our countries. I think there's work we can do in communicating to our populations about the importance of energy infrastructure for energy security of the public. It's true that the US has become a major oil and gas producer, but you know, they were in a position this year that their president needed to ask OPEC to increase their energy production. So things change and evolve all the time, and I think what's important is that the world knows about the work that's being done in North America around producing energy in a way that enhances environmental performance, that creates social value, and that this is something the population should be proud of and our political leaders should be proud of.